It was really hard to hear that your body as a woman doesn't function as it should be. That there's something wrong with you, that something is broken, that there's something like a switch that won't work. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of بدون سكر, where talks are unfiltered and without sugarcoating. So today's episode is not necessarily a new episode per se. It's actually a follow-up on episode 5. I don't know if I want to have kids. And I think this is a big statement that I've recently started making and speaking out loud, because as soon as you say something about kids or having a choice about having kids or not, people look down on it, or people act like رفست النعمة, that I've been wanting to update you on, because I think, if I'm being honest with this podcast and why I'm doing what I'm doing, is you should know this. Is to be able to share with you like an unfiltered version of my life, unfiltered version of my experience and my opinions. And I think a lot of women and men my age, a bit older, but younger, are going through the same thing or will go through the same thing once my cat decides to move away from the microphone. So, if you remember, or if you don't, it's fine. I'm not going to be upset. Episode number 5 was about my decision or no decision to have children. And I think I was a bit arrogant. I'll be very honest about that. So I aired that episode on my birthday. And I don't know if you're like me. If you're anything like me, your birthday is also a time to reflect on what you've done, what you haven't done. You know, it's like a laundry list of all the achievements or disappointments. It's like, you know, an inventory of your life. I do that. And it's not necessarily the best thing to do, because it can be very hard to look at. It could be very hard to look at. So I don't think airing that episode was a great idea to do it on my birthday, because whenever I air an episode that I am quite frank and it's about me, I freak out and I'm terrified, because I was worried about, you know, am I offending people? Am I offending people with kids? Am I gonna get backlash about, you know, the unpopular opinion that I made? But, you know, it was really good feedback. But the issue here is that was just one layer. Actually, around my birthday, I was faced with uncomfortable conversations and truths with my gynecologist, which I don't think anyone wants to have. So during that time, if you watched the episode before this, I was talking about COVID and how it impacted my period. So I went and found some gynecologist to check why was my period delayed for 2 months straight. And obviously no pregnancy. Thank God. Anyway, to give you some context, I have PCOS, and that means polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that hits 10% of the women in the world, if I'm not mistaken, but I can look that up. And it's a diagnosis that women often don't get it in time or don't get diagnosed correctly for different reasons, because it has so many different symptoms that people usually ignore. So polycystic ovaries means that you are born with ovaries that tend to have cysts. What does that mean to you? As a woman, it means infertility in some shape or form. It means hormonal imbalance, acne, fatigue, hair in unwanted places, weight loss issues, hence my issues with weight loss, but I'll tell you more about it later. A lot of things. So I've been religiously seeing a doctor since I was 19, and I was diagnosed with PCOS, and back then I was told to my face that I cannot have kids even if I wanted to. The reason why is because I produced eggs that were not mature enough, even if I want to inseminate them. I don't know if I'm saying the right word, maybe, but you know what I mean. I want them to be fertile. I just naturally couldn't. So I medicated for 2 years, and supposedly I made eggs again. And, you know, I just stayed on the birth control pill until last year. And last year I decided to get off of it. And I wanted to just get rid of my body of, you know, unwanted toxins, unwanted hormones. So if you don't know, period while you're on birth control is not a real period. So and no one told me that, obviously. I had to find out a few years ago or even a year ago. And I wanted to just have my body act normally. I wanted to see where I am in my body. You know, I lost so much weight. I've been taking care of myself to an extent. I've changed the way I eat, you know, so it's time to have my body work naturally. And it did for a while until I got my vaccine, and then it didn't. So I went and saw a doctor. And if you're in Dubai or anywhere in the world, if you find a good gynecologist, it's so hard to find another one. And it's so hard to even find appointments. So you have to wait for 3 months. And you know, when it comes to your own body and gynecological issues, 3 months is a long time. So eventually I managed to find really good doctors. So if you really want and you're in the search for good doctors, please contact me. I can hook you up. Okay, I can't hook you up. I'll just tell you who they are. Honestly, they're really good. So I went there and I saw her and we did these tests, and I found out all of this right before my birthday and right before I aired my episode, which made me feel a bit of a hypocrite maybe. But this is where I am. So what happened is she, you know, we did our tests and all of that. And she told me, even if you wanted to get pregnant, you're a natural contraception right now. But never say never. She is a good doctor, and maybe she was trying to make me feel better. But even though I know I didn't want kids and whatnot, or maybe I was just undecided, it was really hard to hear. It was really hard to hear that your body as a woman doesn't function as it should be. That there's something wrong with you, that something is broken, that there's something like a switch that won't work. That's how it felt. So she informed me of different types of hormone and tests that we can do, and lo and behold, I didn't even know this thing existed. There is a test to know how fertile you are, or the age of your ovaries, in other words. No one told me this. The past 10 years, 15 years, no one has told me this. And she told me, you know, you are only 32, but we need to know if your ovaries are the same age or younger or older. You could be 32, or you could be 29, or it could be whatever age, and your ovaries could be 50 and 60 or 15 or whatever. Okay, maybe not 15, but you know what I mean. And that was like amazing to know that we have that kind of test. Like, that's amazing. Why didn't anyone tell me about it? I felt like I wasted so much time. So we did all the tests. And luckily this time it was covered by insurance. So if you know anything about being a woman and in a medical field, most of the time insurance doesn't cover anything. I used to spend 2,000 to 3,000 dirhams a year for someone to go between my legs, put a metal, whatever it's called, that's cold and painful, and talk and look through my genital area. That's not a wonderful experience, and one that I shouldn't be paying for, and one I shouldn't be punished because I'm a woman and I have hormonal imbalance. Anyway, another topic for another day. So I do the test, and obviously, I had to come back and do the test, and obviously there's a lot of waiting. And in the meantime, I had to talk to Ahmed and tell him, hey, you know how I talk about not wanting kids? It might be a reality. And you know, when the choice is not yours, it becomes very difficult to accept. But my biggest fear wasn't not having kids or being told that I can't have kids. My biggest fear was I was going to be told, if you wanted to have kids, it's now or never. That I had to take a decision. All I can think about, am I going to drop the life that I have and I just go have kids that I don't want? And I know if I don't do this, I would regret it maybe. Maybe. I just didn't want to have the burden of a choice. And it was such a hard truth or hard reality that I have no control over. And I felt like Ahmed is with someone who is broken. And is it fair for him to stay with someone like that? Is it fair for someone? And, and especially he's someone who most likely want kids. Is it fair to do all of those things to someone else? Where does love end? Anyway, I go in with all of those thoughts and fears and anxieties and whatnot. And I'm told that actually medically now I am proven that I have polycystic ovaries, which I've known since I was 19, but now I actually have medical proof because 2 months prior or 4 months prior, another male doctor told me, oh, you don't have polycystic ovaries. And he did nothing medically to try to even prove I have polycystic ovaries or not. He just assumed, and that made me feel crazy. So please, doctors, male doctors, please stop gaslighting women, please. Because it's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. So the diagnosis or the test couldn't tell if I'm not fertile, but didn't tell that I was. So I was in a middle ground, which meant I just needed a bit of extra work. The doctor said it's possible, but it just needs work, which is scary. But I don't want to deal with it right now. As long as I wasn't told that it's now or never, I think it's okay. But then I went home on my birthday. We went on a staycation, and at one point I just cried a lot because I was like, what did I do wrong? Medically, why wasn't anyone informing me of all these things? Did I waste time? And I just felt like I lost so much time and so much energy and so much money on doctors that are not good enough, or didn't care enough. And it took me a COVID vaccine and a delay on my period for me to go find all of these things and to deal with them at such a short time, to do all of this at one go and to deal with it at 32, at this age, all my medical context and all of that. It's just difficult. And women carry the burden of fertility and infertility and all of that on their own. Although studies are showing that men's fertility is declining everywhere globally. It's not only women, but who's it looked upon? Who is seen responsible? It's usually a woman. So this is more of a PSA. If you're a woman, please go check on yourself. Go find better doctors. If you really want good doctors, just talk to me. I'll let you know. What happened is when I went back and we had all these conversations, she also found something else. She found irregular cells, which meant one of three. First one, irregular cells that have 50% chance to clear themselves out in a year or two. It just requires monitoring. Number two is the same, but it's a 25% chance of clearing out. Third is cancer. And then I got suspended in Africa. I remember when I told you that I had a procedure lined up in my previous episode. This was the procedure that I had to do a biopsy. So not only was I stuck in South Africa, I was stuck in South Africa with the thoughts that I might have cancer. Okay, fine. 1 out of 3, I don't know what's the percentage of that. 33%? 33% possibility that I might have cancer. And at least this kind of cancer, she was like, it was slow. It takes 2 to 10 years. But I didn't want to deal with that. That's the last thing I wanted to deal with. So again, if you're a woman, please go check on yourself. If you're a man, please go talk to the women that you know. Let them go find good doctors. Let them do due diligence. So yeah, I think all of this made me think of a lot of things about whether if I were to get pregnant by chance, would I keep the baby? Regardless of where you stand on that, I think every woman has the right to decide. Would I keep the baby? What would I do? What would I do if I were faced with no choice but to have a child right now? Or what would I do if I were faced with no choice to have kids at all? I think my stance changed a little bit. It doesn't mean I want them right now. It doesn't mean I don't have to have a choice. But I think when the choice is taken away from you, your perspective changed. And I think it is a right. And it's sad that we're seen as incomplete by ourselves and by the community and society, incomplete without being able to have kids. Like I felt like, I remember I looked at my body, I was like, I can't ovulate, I can't function correctly. Something is wrong. Even though it's not affecting my life right now. I'm fine, alhamdulillah, and all of that. But it was scary. And yeah, I thought you guys should know, and maybe I'm sure people are going through the same thing somehow. But yeah, what do you do? What would you do? What would you do if someone told you it's now or never? It's now your chance to have a child. Regardless of your financial situation, regardless of your marital situation, regardless of your societal situation, whatever it is, what would you do? Have you had a health scare? Have you had a bad experience with a doctor? I'm sure everyone did. But why aren't we improving the medical society? Why aren't we improving the bedside practice? Why aren't we improving how we talk to people about serious things? Even if it is trivial to a doctor, especially that they go through 100 of these cases. So for them, cancer or infertility or, any disease is trivial. It's just, it's their day to day. But for people, it's not. For people, it's not. It's just not. That's it. That's all I can say. It's not. And you should be more empathetic and you should be more understanding and you should be so much more than that. I don't know. Those are my thoughts for the day. So I'm planning on having shorter episodes, more, to the point. and more frequent. So I hope you guys like that. And if you have something that you would like my take on it, let me know. Please share, subscribe, stream, follow, all these things. Tell your friends about it. I would love to hear more about your experiences as well. And thank you for joining me today. Bye.